y'all. Welcome back to the Who's Right podcast. And what do you know? Another split with the Braves. It's a team that it's the top of the division. But before we get into all of it, before we get into all the talk about who's staying, who's going, subscribe to the channel, like this video, let me know how you're feeling. Obviously, big win today. Soto being clutch, Carson Bench coming up big. But, let me know how you're feeling. Let me know in the comments on replay. If you watch this on replay, let me know how you're feeling. Because, what's next for the Mets? What's next for what's going to be happening with this team? you know. But before we get into all that, this is going to be a kind of a little different show. We're going to talk, recap the week a little bit, but then, we're going to talk about what's going to happen next for the Mets, and I think that's a big part of the show today, especially with a couple articles. Obviously, it's kind of a wonky week. Wraparound series ending on a Monday, so we're coming to you on Monday instead of on Sunday because of the wraparound series, but it's okay. So let's talk about it. Obviously, there's not much to talk about um, in the Toronto series. Lost 2 out of 3 there. Came up pretty. It was pretty bad series. The same old uh, plague of the Mets of not scoring with guys and not hitting with the guys in scoring position kind of plagued us in that series. We had 0 for 17, 0 for 22. I can't remember exactly, but it was just horrible. Horrible to not get a clutch hit against that Toronto series. Luckily, we got out of there with one W, but at the end of the day, we didn't do what we needed to do in that series. We haven't done what we needed to all season. But I digress. I must say Toronto is one of those stadiums that hopefully I'll get to visit one of these days. Excited for our trip this year, even though we don't know what the product on the field is going to be for the Mets, but we're going to listen to Evan Roberts and do that Cleveland Pittsburgh kind of road trip, and that's going to be exciting. But at the end of the day, let's move on from the Toronto series because there's really not much to talk about. And let's talk about this Brave series. It's we get a split with the Braves. It's not something that you wish you could take advantage of their bullpen. They haven't been a good bullpen lately. They've been on kind of a rough stretch as far as their ball club is going. So I guess taking a split from them at this point in the season is something that you kind of want, right? Because of a team of the caliber of the Braves right now, and but them not playing super 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 good baseball right now. So glad to see Peralta today tough it out. Defense, not really the defense, but yes, the defense didn't help him out too much today. But good to see him, fight through and get you know through a tough beginning. We kind of cost him probably getting through 5, but what can you do? At least he only got out of through 4 and 2/3 with only one earned run. Because he's been getting lit up lately, or all season. Uh, if we want to be honest. And so, it's good to see him against a team like the Braves, have a good game like that. And he's had, and I wouldn't say a good game because he only went 4 and 2/3. So don't kill me on saying a good game, but at least a game that he's not getting killed in, giving up 5, 6, 7 runs like he has been. And he's had these games before. We just need him to put a couple games together like that, and so um, you know we just need him to do that, whether we trade him or not. We'll get into that in our next segment. But yesterday we got to talk about McLean. McLean looking like the guy that we all were hoping. Finally, is he starting to figure it out? I don't know, but I'm hoping he is because he's a guy that we expected to be our future edge, and so I'm hoping that he's starting to figure it out, and um, and now we get to see the guy that we saw last year, and so love to see that outing, and love to see the outing with Peralta. Now, before that, we had Manaya. Um, I mean, is there really anything to say um, on that one? At this point, what can you say about Manaya? He's a guy that I don't think he's. I think he's done. To be honest with you, um, you know, and this is me saying that after after a month that we need to see him do well to uh, potentially, if somebody gets crazy, trade him. Because everybody's going to be looking for pitching. I know these guys aren't attractive. Um, the way they are right now. But teams are in contention. Actually, every team is in contention except for 5 or 6 teams, which the Mets are included in those 5 or 6 teams. And um, they need pitching. Most teams need pitching. So somebody can get crazy and want Mania. So we need him to come out and have a good July, decent July, so he looks somewhat attractive, right? At the end of the day, it's only one extra year left on his contract, so it's not like it was last year where he just wasn't the guy. We resigned him, and he had 3 years left, right? No, it's a year and a half at this point. So even if we have to eat some salary, I just need him to have a couple good starts and potentially get traded. And then Friday we had Christian Scott. I know they're taking it easy on him. They're taking it slow. This is a guy that just got back from injury this year, so they don't want to push him. And at the end of the day, why would you, with the season that we're having, why would you push him? But we do need him to start getting at least to 5 innings. So we need him to stop having um, um, so many walks. Um, we need him to stop, having control issues and stop giving up walks. Um, so much. So, I mean, the coaches are telling him to get that control under control. Because we need him to stop walking, and that's when we're going to start seeing Scott being stretched out when he stops walking people. We're going to see him start going 5 innings, 6 innings potentially, if he stops walking people. But I understand about taking it slow. One, he's coming off an injury. Two, we're not the team that is competing for anything at this point. Yeah, I was one that was very optimistic. I kept hoping that these guys would make it a season, but they haven't at this point. And so this is me kind of throwing in the towel and saying, this is, this has become a more of a 2027 season podcast because unfortunately this is where we're at. So I understand that taking it slow with Scott, but I would like to for him to cut down on those walks and kind of start seeing more innings coming out of him. But that's okay. So now we're gonna transition into concerns, trades, whatever, however you want to. We'll probably sit here for a while. I don't know how long we're gonna go on this podcast, but let's talk about the potential trades. Right? Obviously, Will Salmon had his article a few days ago talking about who the Mets can trade, who they can't trade, who other teams may be interested in, and all that good stuff, right? Um, let's first talk about to eliminate who they're not going to trade. I know Boomer was on WFAN today talking about trading Lindor. Uh, love you, Boomer. I sometimes, you have good takes sometimes, especially when it comes to some football takes. But yeah, as much as the drama, supposed drama, or the drama that's no longer there with him and Soto, is, whether that's true or not, whatever it is, it doesn't even matter. 86 Mets had teammates that didn't so much um, get along, and so I'm not too worried about that. I'm not too worried about any of that talking. At the end of the day, here's what happens when we're losing. This is a talking point. When the team is winning, we don't talk about this. It's happened time and time again. That 2024 season, um, all of a sudden, all our problems went away from the previous year when we had Tommy Pham talking about, or 2 years before that, whenever it was. Tommy Pham talked about how bad the clubhouse was and blah, 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 blah. All of a sudden, 2024 happened, and all those problems went away. What was the difference? The Mets were winning. That simple. It's that simple. I don't want to hear about JD Martinez or Iglesias being here and making a big difference. Maybe JD Martinez a little bit, but Iglesias, come on, guys. Whoever wants to bring that narrative, I'm sorry. That's Iglesias is not a team leader that's going to affect every guy on this team. He's a bench player that had a good season and a career. Well, not a career bench player. He started for most of his career, but at the end of the day, it was a 34-year-old guy that had a hit song, and it became the anthem for the year. But at the end of the day, that's not the reason the team got along. Yeah, the team got along is because the team was winning. So this whole trading Lindor, that's got to go. Lindor's one of the top players in the league, top shortstop in the league at minimum, and one of the top players in the league. You can't trade him away. You know, not now. And I mean, unless he wants to get traded, we actually don't know what's going on, the ins and outs of what's going on in the clubhouse, and what Lindor has said to the front office, to Stearns and stuff like that. If he does get traded, it's because he wants to. Because one, you don't trade somebody like that, top player, guy that plays every day except for this year. A guy that is a potential Gold Glover at shortstop. He's just a guy that you don't trade away. So unless he wants to get traded, and the other factor is, now that he's a veteran of his caliber, 10-5 a guy, I think he is. Um, he basically has a no trade clause. So I don't know if he has a no trade clause already on his contract. He probably already does. But being a 10-5 guy, he has no trade card clause regardless, because he could veto any trade. So talking about trading Lindor, not going to happen. Um, you don't trade away a guy like that. Soto, obviously, he's not going anywhere. So I don't think I need to continue to talk about that. He's Soto, one of the top five players in the league. Um, you know, um, he's leading in how many categories right now in the majors. So that's not a guy you trade away regardless. And that's on the hitting side. Bichette, um, with that contract, I wouldn't say he's impossible to trade, but he has a no trade clause. So we want to you know be careful how we talk about the Bichette, because at the end of the day, I would rather him play out his contract and opt out, and unless there is a team that makes a bid for him, and it's a team that where he wants to go. But after the start that he had this year, to restart again and have those similar pressures on another team, I don't know if he wants to do that. Um, so I think he's here to stay, at least for this year. The hope is that he plays out well enough the rest of the year. Obviously, he's turned it around in June and late June and here in July. He's turned it around, and we're starting to see the Bichette that we expected from the beginning of the season. But I just don't see him wanting to be traded to a team and starting this whole thing over and over again. Um, because he had a rough time adjusting. So that's not a guy that's I don't think is going to get traded. So right there, Lindor, Bo, and Soto not going to get traded. Benj not going to get traded. Obviously, rookie doing well. He's not going to get traded. He's the future. Ewing not going to get traded. He's another guy. I'm just going to run through these guys because those two guys are the future. Our outfield is set for the next few years with Soto, Ewing, and Benj. Maybe Robert gets traded when he comes back, or he's just a bench player, and we don't pick up the option for next year for Robert. But for right now, talking about our outfield is set for the next few years. Soto, Ewing, and Bench. Now let's get to the guys that um, may get traded. Well, another guy that's not going to get traded, but he's injured right now, is Simeon. Nobody's going to take on that contract. He's not the player he used to be. He's not the player that they signed him to that contract for. Mets obviously just wanted to get off the Nimmo contract. They wanted a new face in the clubhouse, and so that's why they picked up Simeon. There's nothing um, to talk about more than that. And Simeon is probably going to take a bench role, sooner rather than later. Depending on what's out there. Maybe Bo takes over second base. Who knows? I don't know. But I just don't see him going anywhere. He's either starting at second or he's going to be a bench player. But he's not going anywhere because of that contract. Plain and simple. 2 more years of that contract. It's okay. We did it with Marte when he couldn't play every day. And because when he did play, he got hurt. So I think that's the similar fate for Simeon. Um, all right, the rest of the guys. Beatty, I just don't see him getting traded. I know it was put out there by Chelsea James that there's still people that believe in him in the organization. I don't know if I would say I still believe in Beatty. As you all know, this podcast loves Beatty, but I don't know if I would say I still believe in Beatty. What I would say is that at minimum, he's a utility player, right? He can play all over the diamond. He can play the corner outfielders, um, corner infielder, and second base, right? And I mean, that's great. As a utility player, as a guy that's going to come off your bench, nothing wrong with that. I could see him staying. I just don't see him as a starter anymore. Um, some of the people in the organization do. He could prove me wrong. I'll welcome it if he proves me wrong, but I see him as a bench player. But let's see what happens for him. But Beatty, that's what he is. He's a bench player. Alvarez, I don't know. I don't know. There's talk about how Alvarez can. People, teams are interested in Alvarez on both Alvarez and Torrens. I would honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing Alvarez traded. Be honest with you, I have no issue with Alvarez being traded. Um, at this point, I think his defense has taken a step back, and he's a DH. The problem is that we have a couple DHs on our team right now with Polanco and Vientos. And so I just don't see them. What's the? I just don't see him having the kind of future we all expected from Alvarez. And I love Alvarez. He's a guy that I thought was going to be the top catcher in the league for a long time. And one, he either can't stay healthy. Um, Two, we've seen his defense. His defense was a little, yeah, he got sent down last year because of his defense. That was the main reason he got sent down was because of his defense. And so, and his pitch calling is to be desired as well. The only upside that he has over Torrens is the bat. That's it. And do we really want to? Um, is that a guy that we want to hold on to for his potential? I know he's still young, but he is he's about to hit arbitration. And so, is this who Alvarez is? He's just a streaky player. He has shown that he can't, when he's not hot, he just can't lay off the slider. And they put up a graphic during the series that Keith was talking about, where they don't have to pitch him a strike. They don't have to pitch strikes uh, to um, to Alvarez. He goes out of the zone to swing at pitches. The next at bat that Keith was talking about, that he's swinging at pitches outside the strike zone and taking the one straight down the middle. You can't make this up. You can't make it up. So He might be a guy that needs a change of scenery. He might be one of those other guys that need to change of scenery, and um, and yeah, that's who Alvarez is. So if he brings back a haul, by all means, you know, glad we met you. Glad we got to know you. But if he brings back a haul, let's do it because we're not winning with him right now. So might as well change it up. You know. Next is Vientos. Guy can't play on the field. Guy is has a bad attitude. Guy is very streaky, like extremely streaky. And and when the hot streaks aren't lasting very long. And you can give him away for a bucket of balls. Use bucket of balls at that. Uh, you know, it's time for him to go. His time on this team is done. He cannot be here past the trade deadline. You give him away. Doesn't matter. He cannot be here past the trade deadline. David Stearns, I love you. I not, I think there's a lot of bad luck that happened this year. So, I'm not flipping tables because of the work that you did this year. But Vientos cannot be on this team anymore. This guy has a bad attitude. This guy is horrible on the field. This guy cannot be on this team anymore. I just don't know what else to say. I am done with the Vientos experiment. Doesn't even matter against lefties. Keep Young on the field, and Polanco's gonna be here soon, right? Polanco might be here tomorrow. Who knows? I think at this point, um, if he doesn't, if Polanco's is not here, Polanco's not here tomorrow, he's not coming back until after the All Star break. But Vientos gotta go, gone. See ya. Wish you luck. If he does well on another team, I don't care anymore. I didn't care actually. I wanted him gone before. Gotta go. Gotta get him out of here. It's done. Over. Louis Torrens, I'd keep him. Got the extension. He's a good catcher. Not great offensively, but as you can see today, he has a little bit of the clutch gene, came through big today. And so he's a guy, yeah, he's not going to give you great offensive numbers, but he's a guy that you need to keep, plain and simple. So if I could see Terrence taking over full time catching duties, and I'd be okay with that. Actually, I think he has to the most part. I think Alvarez being DH'd as much as he has, and I know part of it is injury, but he was being DH'd before his injury, and so I just think that Terrence might be our catcher of the present, and that opens the door to trading Alvarez. You can get a backup catcher. It doesn't have to be Singer, even though I really don't. It doesn't bother me. Backup catchers play once or twice a week, so I'm not worried about that. And the other guys, Young and all the bench players, obviously, there's not a lot, if any, trade value with those guys. So not even worth talking about. Let's go over to the pitching staff. Um, Guys that aren't going anywhere. McLean, obviously. So nothing to talk about there. I'll just move on. I'm not going to prolong this podcast by talking about McLean. Scott's not going anywhere. He's one of our, McLean and Scott are our two locks for our rotation next year. Now, here are the question marks. Holmes is starting to pitch. Is a team going to want to trade for Holmes? And if they do, what do we do? Do we trade him, or do we keep him to try to get him to extend here? That's a big question mark. He's a veteran. He's a workhorse. He's a beast. You know, is he a guy that you would like to keep for next year? For me, I kind of want to keep him. He's a guy that's proven. He's a Stearns project. That's got to count for something. So he's a Stearns project, and that's worked out. And so I would think they want to keep that veteran presence here. And he's an innings eater, and he got a fluky injury today, this year, with the broken leg. So I think you keep him, but we'll see. I can be talked out of keeping him if there's a good trade happening. That's plain and simple. Now, Peralta, this is tricky because he may be having his worst year since the beginning of his career, and so is this the real Peralta, or is he going to get back to being the guy that led the Milwaukee staff? I don't know, but I'm open to trading him as long as we get something back. And guys, we got to remember, the Mets trades are not going to be all about prospects. There are going to be some guys that are ready to hit the majors. Or already in the majors. So we'll see what kind of haul Peralta brings back. But I'd be really open, and the Mets should be open to trading him. Who else? Senga. Somebody take him. Please take him. Somebody take him at this point. I had high hopes for Senga, and it just didn't happen. Manaya, again, if somebody's open to taking him, I'm all about it. Let's do it. Let's make those trades and get those guys off the books. So Peralta, he can go or stay. If he brings back a haul, he can go. McLean's not going anywhere. Scott's not going anywhere. I would keep Holmes as a veteran presence, and Senga and Manaya, if somebody wants to take them, go. Sell them for a bucket of balls too. I don't care. Um, Bullpen, obviously, two lefties, Rayleigh and Minter, are going to get traded. Um, they're on expiring contracts, and good pitchers. So I could see us getting good value out of those guys. Brazaban, uh, you know, is he going to continue to be Brazaban? Obviously, he got lit up this series, but for the most part, Brazaban has been a reliable pitcher. You know, no other teams are going to want that. So I'd say, trade him as well. Luke Weaver, love the dude. Got the save today. But if somebody's going to give us Luke Weaver, out of all the pitchers that we're selling off, Luke Weaver is going to bring us the biggest haul. Plain and simple. He's controllable, and he's proven that he's the back rotation guy. So somebody can even get him to be their closer. I could see that happening. So, I'm all about it. I would love to keep him, but the way we're going, and him bringing us the best package out of all the pitchers, you just got to trade him. You just got to trade him. That's a guy that you got to trade. So yeah, that's the guy that you got to trade. So let's do it. And Devin Williams, nobody's gonna trade for that. I love. At the time, I love the signing, but he's he's the guy that everybody thought he was. Unfortunately, it's unfortunate. What can you do? What can you do? I'm not going to even talk about Devin Williams. Very disappointed. The only saving grace. Well, I'm not even going to say that either. But, anyways, Luke Weaver is going to bring you back the biggest hole. Austin Warren, I'd keep him, as a building block for next year. You know, we got some guys coming back from injury, and so I think we'll be fine. Getting a bullpen together for next year. So get rid of the whole bullpen except for the guys that aren't wanted, like Devin Williams. I don't know if anybody would want a Devin Williams. So that's it, guys. At the end of the day, and Polanco's a guy that somebody may want. Going back to hitting, the two guys coming back from injury is Polanco and Robert. Somebody may want to trade for those guys. Obviously, they're not going to bring back a lot, but they might bring something back if they come back and show that they can play a little bit, and be healthy. Because at the end of the day, with Polanco, yes, he's a good hitter. We already know he's a good hitter. His biggest issue was staying on the field, and that came to fruition big time this year. With Robert, he's basically on an expiring contract. So, that's just he's a guy that if somebody wants to trade for him, give us something, a bucket of balls, or a little bit better than a bucket of balls for Robert. I'd make the trade. So, who are we trading? Polanco, Robert, Weaver, Minter, Rayleigh, Brazaban, potentially Peralta, maybe Holmes, hopefully Senga and Minaya, hopefully Vientos. But that's it. That's it, guys. There's not a lot on this team to sell off. As much as we want this to be a huge sell off, there's not much on this team that's going to get sold off, because the top names on this team, Soto, Lindor, and Bichette, I have no expectations that those guys are going to get traded. None. Zero. Absolutely none. So, guys, I think we're going to end it there. Let me know how you're thinking. Let me know what you guys think about the potential of guys getting traded on replay. Put in the comments and let me know, because who knows what's going to happen with this team. What are we going to see in August once we get past the trade deadline? So before I'm out of here, subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it with your friends, let them know, and let me know how you're feeling. But until next week, let's go Mets.